Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into the world of energy storage with a detailed review of the DJLBERMPW 12 volt 300 amp hour Lifepo4 battery. It's a little bit of a mouthful of a name. I'm not sure what it stands for, but there you go. Lifepo4 is lithium iron phosphate, which is a safer battery chemistry than the traditional lithium ion polymer. So that means that this isn't going to go into thermal runaway if one of the batteries in the inside of this unit is punctured. Now we can see it's a pretty big battery. If we measure it here, you can see it's about 19 inches long, about 9 inches tall, and about 10 inches deep. So it's pretty sizable. As you can see, it comes with these terminals here. I'm going to take these screws out so we can get a better look. Now these are standard M8 screws, just normal 8mm machine screws. The ones that come with it are pretty shallow. You can fit a little bit deeper in those holes, but I wouldn't recommend using anything else other than what is included with the battery. However, it is a nice snug fit, and each screw that's included is long enough to fit at least 2 ring-style connectors on each terminal. Despite this unit's physical size and high capacity, it's only about 70 pounds. And it has these carrying handles to haul it around. Let's take a closer look at what's on the outside of the unit. I've actually used these handles a lot to carry this battery around, and even though it's 70 pounds, which is pretty light, for me anyways, the handles still are very useful in picking it up and carrying it place to place. On the front sticker here, you can see the model number along with a warning. You can see that there is alerts here telling you not to short circuit the battery. Don't reverse connections from the charger to battery, just means you should only ever connect positive to the positive and negative to negative. Do not disassemble the battery. Don't try and take it apart because it is sealed. It's meant to be sealed against dust or water droplets, stuff like that. You don't want to try to take this thing apart because it might injure you or you might injure the battery. Of course, you don't want to throw this whole battery into a fire. That would be a little dangerous. And you also don't want to heat it up above 60 degrees Celsius. Here we can see just some regulatory markings and another model number. And here we have some general warnings. Now you want to read the manual before you use this, and we'll go over the manual here in a little bit. And here we have just some specifications of the battery. It has the charging voltage and nominal voltage and the discharge cutoff voltage, along with some maximum and minimum currents. Okay, let's take a closer look at the sticker that's on the top here. Now first we have the type of the battery, which like we stated earlier, is lithium iron phosphate. We have the nominal capacity, which is 300 amp hours. We'll go into that in some more detail here in a bit. And then we have the watt hours, which is what you get when you multiply the nominal voltage of the battery by the nominal capacity. And the watt hours essentially mean you'll be able to run a specific watt load for that many hours. And then we have the charging voltage, which is 14.4 volts. And that's some of the parameters you'd put into your charger if you have a charger that's programmable. This also works with just any basic run-of-the-mill lithium iron phosphate battery charger that charges batteries at 12 volts nominal. The discharge cutoff voltage is 10 volts. That means if you run this battery all the way down to 0%, the BMS, which is a little circuit board on the inside of this battery, is going to cut off discharge at 10 volts. So once this battery reaches 10 volts, it's not going to give you any more power. That's basically just to protect the cells on the inside of the battery. The standard charge current is 60 amps, which means you can put about 800 watts of power into this battery at once. So if you have a programmable charger, it's good to set that maximum charging amperage. If you charge the battery above 60 amps all the time, you might run into issues where the battery can fail. Now, since this is a lithium iron phosphate battery, you're not going to run into the sort of problem where the battery has extreme thermal runaway, since that's usually only an issue with older style lithium polymer batteries. It does say the maximum charge current is 100 amps, so you can charge this battery at up to 100 amps, but you don't want to do that all the time. Like I said, if you have a programmable charge controller, you want to set that maximum charging current at 60 amps. And you can see here it has the standard discharge current, 60 amps as well. Basically what that means is the largest inverter you're going to want to use with this battery is going to be an 800 watt or 1000 watt 12 volt inverter. If you try to use an inverter that's larger, it does allow you to have a maximum discharge current of 200 amps. Just like the maximum charging current, you don't want to be pulling that maximum discharge current all the time because it can shorten the overall life of the battery and possibly lead to issues such as the battery stopping to work or the BMS cutting the battery discharge off. So like I said, the largest inverter you'll want to use with a single one of these batteries is an 800 to 1000 watt 12 volt inverter. Now you can see the charging temperature of this battery is 0 to 50 degrees Celsius. That's pretty standard for lithium iron phosphate batteries. This battery doesn't have a heater on the inside, so you won't be able to charge it below 0 degrees. But that's fine in my situation. I'm not using it in a camper or anywhere outside where it's going to get cold. And then, of course, the discharge temperature is standard as well, negative 20 degrees to 60 degrees Celsius. Now we get to the cycle life. Essentially what this means is depth of discharge is when you take the battery from 100% discharge down to 0%. That's considered one discharge. So 2,000 cycles is what you'll get out of this battery. If you were to take it from 100% down to 0% 2,000 times, essentially that would be the rated life of the battery. What it says, where it says 5,000 cycles at 8% depth of discharge, essentially that means that if you take the battery from 100% state of charge down to 20% state of charge, you'll get more cycles out of it. This battery in particular, I usually run down to about 30% state of charge. That's 70% depth of discharge, just to maximize the overall lifespan of the battery. Just taking a look at the website listing for this battery here, we can see that right now it's actually on sale for $660, which for a 12 volt 300 amp hour battery is a pretty good deal. And it looks like they support, from the website listing here, up to 4 batteries in parallel and 4 batteries in series. And what that means is you can connect up to 4 of these batteries in parallel, giving you 12 volts, 1200 amp hours, which is essentially 15,000 watt hours or 15 kilowatt hours of storage, which is a lot. However, it also says it supports having 4 of these batteries in a series, which would give you 48 volts, 300 amp hours. That's the same amount of watt hours, which is a lot, 15,000 or 15 kilowatt hours. It also says it supports having a 4P4S configuration, which is essentially having 4 batteries in a series and then each of those batteries in a series is connected with 3 other batteries in parallel. So that's going to give you a 48 volt 1200 amp hour battery, which is pretty nuts. That's going to give you a 61,000 watt hour battery, or a 61 kilowatt hour battery. So that's a lot of power that it supports. It's a pretty large configuration, and at $660 a pop, it's a pretty good deal, especially seeing as it comes with a 5-year warranty. So if you run into any issues within that 5-year period, just contact their support department and they'll help you out. And you don't need to worry about this website going away anytime soon. They've been around for a while, so their support department will assist you, and I've actually reached out to them before and they're extremely responsive. Now, just some background on why I originally purchased this battery. Originally, I had purchased an all-in-one battery backup like you see here to run a pretty efficient inverter AC window unit. Now what that is an inverter AC window unit is a kind of window unit that has a variable speed compressor, which means the power use is going to be variable. Most AC window units traditionally have a startup surge and then have a continuous draw as long as they're in operation. The one I have, being an inverter unit, means that the compressor can run at variable speeds, so it can use as low as 150 watts in eco mode, and then it can use up to about 800 watts if I really push it hard. And I purchased this AC window unit in case my home HVAC went out or our power went out, which has happened in the past a few times now in the past 3 or 4 years. However, unfortunately, I didn't do my math, and I ended up being pretty disappointed with the all-in-one unit's runtime when combined with the window AC unit. Even though the window AC unit itself is pretty efficient, like I said, it's an inverter unit, so if I run it on eco mode, it only uses about 150 to 200 watts. However, with this portable all-in-one battery unit, I was only getting about 6 hours of runtime at best. And so by that point, it was too late to return the all-in-one battery and inverter unit. So I looked up how to expand the runtime of these all-in-one units with some kind of external battery, as I didn't have any solar panels yet. Unfortunately, the model I have doesn't have a dedicated battery expansion port, and it led me to the fact that the XT60 port can just be used as a battery input. So what we're looking at here is the orange XT60 connector on the side of my all-in-one inverter battery solar controller. Now, what this XT60 connector is meant to be used for, it goes to an internal MPPT controller on the inside of this all-in-one unit, and it's meant to take up to 65 volts at 10 amps. However, you can buy XT60 to ring terminal cables, which you can plug into any battery up to the maximum input voltage that's listed on the side of the all-in-one unit. So in my case, I could connect up to a 65 volt battery. So I bought one of these XT60 to ring terminal adapters, and I connected it from my DJLBERMPW battery into the XT60 input on the side of my all-in-one. Unfortunately, because the all-in-one has a input limit of 10 amps, it only allowed me to input about 120 watts of power when connected directly to the battery. So what I did is I took a 12 volt to 24 volt boost converter, and I connected the 12 volt input side to the DJLBERMPW battery, and then the 24 volt output side to the ring terminals going to the XT60 connector. That allows me to input into the all-in-one about 200 watts of power, which is plenty enough to keep the all-in-one charged while it's running the window AC unit on eco mode. Now I'll show you some footage and we can go over approximately how long I can have of a runtime when I'm running the window AC unit completely off of the DJLBERMPW 12 volt 300 amp hour battery. During these tests, I'm going to be using this Renogy battery monitor, which I've calibrated to the 12 volt 300 amp hour DJLBERMPW battery, and I've set it to 300 amp hours, and it shows here 100% charged. It's been sitting on the charger now for a few days. I've just been letting it set at float voltage. So it's 100% charged, so that means we're ready to start our test. So we can see here I have the all-in-one unit and inverter set to 100% charged. I've been letting that charge for a bit, and I have my 12 volt 300 amp hour battery all charged up as well. It's just been sitting on that charger for a couple days. So let's turn on the window AC unit here. This unit is plugged directly into the all-in-one unit, which is only being fed by the 12 volt 300 amp hour battery. Let's set it down to 76 degrees, and I'm going to turn off eco mode, which essentially means that the AC unit is going to be running with the fan on all the time, and the compressor will cycle up and down as needed. And as you can see here, if I wasn't pulling any power from the battery, I would only be getting about 3 hours of runtime from the all-in-one, which is pretty abysmal. The all-in-one is not going to be pulling power until it reaches about 99% state of charge. So you can see here it's pulling about 400 watts. That's going to go down in a bit. As you can see here, I have the house HVAC set to 75 degrees. With that window unit set to 76 degrees, it's still going to cycle because the window unit is far enough away from the wall sensor for the HVAC system. I have the house fan set to on during this test, so that's going to be circulating the air the entire time. Okay, so with the house HVAC set to 75 and the window unit set to 76, it's been running now for a while, and you can see here that the state of charge in the all-in-one is 98%, and so it is pulling that approximately 200 watts from the 12 volt to 24 volt boost converter that's connected up to the 12 volt 300 amp hour battery. And if we come down here to the Renogy state of charge, we can see that it is pulling 199 watts from the battery. So that boost converter is pretty efficient because it's pulling 199 watts from the battery at 12 volts, and it's pushing it through the boost converter into 24 volts, and it's only losing about 5 to 6 watts in heat loss. So it's pretty efficient. So we'll let this run all night, and we'll come back and we'll see what the state of charge is in the morning. Okay, so we've been running the system all night. Started at about 9 p.m. Now it's about 9 a.m. and you can see that it's still pulling that power from the battery as needed. And if we go down here and look at the state of charge for the 12 volt 300 amp hour battery, we can see it's sitting at about 195 amp hours remaining, or 65%. So it's pretty good. We're running it all night, about 12 hours, and we've only used about 35% of the battery capacity. It's estimated we can continue this load for another 12 hours. Although in reality it will be longer than that as the window AC unit cycles up and down. So realistically, I think we could probably get maybe about another 13 to 14 hours remaining out of this battery running this window AC unit. So pretty good. Essentially all night, and then again the next day all day. So final thoughts. Overall, I'm pretty happy about my purchase of the DJLBERMPW 12 volt 300 amp hour battery. The ability to run my window AC unit for well over 12 hours, approaching an entire 24-hour mark of running that window AC unit with a 1 degree temperature difference between the AC unit and my house HVAC, which definitely does help. The area that the window AC unit is set up in, I can feel a temperature difference. It is a lot cooler than the rest of the house. And the DJLBERMPW battery is no slouch when it comes to being able to power this system. I suspect that it would be a little more efficient if I just ditched the all-in-one unit entirely and went with a 800 watt or 1000 watt pure sine wave inverter connected up to this battery, which, like I said earlier in the video, would be a perfect pair for this battery and the inverter, since that's right about the continuous rated discharge of 60 amps. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. You get about 10 years lifespan out of this battery, so I think it'll serve me for years to come, and I'll make some follow-up videos. I'm going to add solar to this setup here pretty soon, so we can see about how much runtime I'll get when solar is added. And like I said earlier, you can put about 800 watts of solar power continuously into one of these batteries. So I think I'm going to aim for that, and I'll follow up with another video. Links are in the description for the DJLBERMPW 12-volt 300 amp hour battery itself, and as well as some other small items that I used in the video. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll be sure to respond. Thanks for watching.